We are back for round 3 of the Eternal Tournament Series, Season 1, Week 6. I am Sir Rhino, and still with me here in the casting booth, helping me break down all this tournament action, is Counterbob. How you doing, Counterbob?
Good, yes, I'm still here for the time being.
Ominous. So we've got a fun little matchup here for round 3. We've got BruisedByGod on Big Xenon up against Farodsbro, who, of course, is on Skycrag aggro, his favorite little archetype that served him well this season so far.
Yeah, the Xenon deck is definitely interesting. I think Xenon in general is going to be pretty good with this meta going forward. There's a lot of different variants. There's Xenon Life Force. There's like the Xenon Killers mid-range deck. There's another Xenon mid-range deck. And then there's the more Xenon Control with the way this deck's built.
Yeah.
And there's just so many ways. I like that in a faction that there's so many ways it can go, and they're all very effective.
Yeah, Xenon didn't get as much as other mid-range decks from the latest sets because it didn't get, say, a crest, but it still got lots of other tools. We see Amber Waystone being featured in this deck as just incidental life gain. Dream Snatcher is the adjustment that BruisedByGod is making here as you know, a nice early game play, but hard on the influence requirements in terms of being double shadow. But he works that out by his 3-drop also being double shadow with Ion. So there's a lot of ways to build Big Xenon. This is a deck that I played in the World Championship. It's largely unchanged. World Bear Behemoth is a big gain for the deck, but we notice here BruisedByGod has 0 Stray into Shadow anywhere in the main or side, opting to just lean on Devastating Setback now as the sweeper of choice in the sideboard. 4 Predatory Carnosaur hanging out in the sideboard as well. Main decking some Sabotage and Dark Return. Dark Return a little sketchy in Big Xenon decks of the past because your units were already expensive, so you have to play them, they'd have to die, then you have to have an extra power and bring them back. Now with the early game of both Dream Snatcher and Ion, it has some better targets early, mid, and later on in the game.
Yeah, I am surprised seeing 3, though. I could see 2 in this sort of deck.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, Xenon's gotten like these little things over time, like the small buff Tavares choice a while back.
Oh, yeah.
Dream Snatchers come in. World Bear Behemoths come in. And then we got Devastating Setback got a little buff. Like all these little incremental things have kind of piled up and it's kind of fallen back. But now I think its stock's going to rise.
Although on the same page, Steward of the Past no longer in the list with the nerf to its ability to shut down Revenge and Entomb effects. BruisedByGod opting to abandon Steward and just let Sandstorm Titan be the only 4-drop in the deck alongside some Death Strikes. On the other end, it's Farodsbro. He's jamming Skycrag aggro. This is the style he likes to play where he tops out at 4 mortars and everything else costs 3 or less. And he's sticking to that. 2 main deck Backlash and 2 main deck Fearless Yeti, I guess, are some of the more interesting takes on this list that stand out to me anyways.
Yes, I really like Backlash.
Oh, yeah.
When I first started getting into ranked, I was playing Skycrag aggro. I'm like, auto-include Backlash. You may be able to tell from my name that I do like counter spells. And this one does damage and you're trying to push damage anyway. It feels great. Fearless Yeti does kind of surprise me, but you do want another 2-drop that's aggressive. It wears a Shogun Scepter real well, that Overwhelm. And then there's 10 total 1-drops. So something's coming down turn 1.
I think I'd like to experiment with the 2/3 Yeti. I can't remember the name of it in that spot. That makes all your Yetis one close to the top. I'm all about drawing my Cinder Yetis and Champion of Fury sooner and having a 2/3 for 2. But I like the Fearless Yeti tech as well. When it hits your opponent, you get to scout and it's got some Overwhelm up front. That's pretty cool too. I'm interested to see how it plays out. Against a deck with Vera's Favor, it's a little bit sketchier though.
Yeah, but you got to figure there's so many 1-drops that want to eat the Vera's Favor anyway that it may survive.
For sure. So I think we're ready for this match to get underway. We're going to give these players the go-ahead. And who do you like in this game 1 pre-sideboard here?
I think a lot of it depends on the start that Farodsbro has. Like, if he can chain together unit after unit after unit, I think it's in his favor. But if he ever misses, it's going to be bad. And then also a Dream Snatcher on 2 versus this is rough, but we see he has 3 Permafrost. I think it's a theme today. Everyone's drawing 3-0s of certain cards.
Yeah, 3 Permafrost is the draw there. That shuts down the Dream Snatcher, which would have gotten buffed up by the Sabotage if BruisedByGod draws here if he opts to play it out. The big thing in this matchup is Sandstorm Titan, right?
Yep.
When that comes down, that's where Skycrag can have real issues. Then you're only really getting through it with your quick draw units. And so the key is to pressure. BruisedByGod not having any main deck setbacks or sweepers is pretty big here too. He's going to really lean on these early lifesteal units, but right now he's not able to do that with just a Champion of Mystery and Deathstrike in hand.
Yeah, I'm surprised not having setbacks main, at least like 2, just in case of these matchups, and also the ability to have your 5th and 6th Sabotage basically against the more controlling decks is super helpful as well. But it could be paying off in testing and maybe not really seeing these sort of matchups and figuring with all the other removal, the Dream Snatcher gain life, you'll be fine. But I like that card right now a lot with its recent buff changing from 4 cost to 3.
Yeah, it'll definitely be coming in post-board, no doubt about that, as basically every unit in Farodsbro's deck dies to it. So, but here we see swings coming in. BruisedByGod was repping Ion there. That's why Farodsbro didn't swing with the Pyro Knight, as it would get eaten by Ion. That's the power of Ion. Even when you don't have them in your hand, your opponent has to respect it if they don't have a torch up or something like that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The card is so good in this matchup. I think overall the matchup leans towards the Zenith deck, but if you have that start with Skycrag, it's against any matchup. If you just have that start, it's hard to come back, and we see both cards in Farodsbro hand won't do anything against this Titan. Well, 2 Titans.
Yep, 2 Titans come down now, and if the first one was hard for Farodsbro to deal with, the second one's even more difficult. BruisedByGod thinking about swinging in with a Titan in this spot, I'd be okay with it. It would take out a Pyro Knight. But at the same time, they're so hard for Skycrag to deal with. Why let their units become removal spells for units that are otherwise unremovable for them?
Yeah, you can just sit back, relax. You're at 21. You're under no threat. No need to be aggressive. They're on 1 card. You have plenty of stuff in hand, and then you just got to warp a 2/6 Waystone Diffuser. So no need to be aggressive at this point.
Yep, no power on top, but BruisedByGod still holding on to this Amber Waystone anyways. Farodsbro finds a power, so 1 more power will start unlocking these Pyro Knights to be 6/5s that will trade with Titan straight up. But there we see an Ion off the top from BruisedByGod. Newly buffed Ion. Now the ultimate is 8 instead of 9, which is pretty nice. And Seed of Mystery will get warped in off of this Waystone Infusion, which did not get hit by the Permafrost from Farodsbro.
Yeah, you could see the Bear's Choice on one of the Pyro Knights just to kind of push those away. They'll only have the ability to activate 1 of them. So they'll be a 6/5, so they could potentially trade with a Titan.
Yeah, you're going to want to use this Bear's Choice on a Pyro Knight eventually anyways, unless you end up finding like a ping effect to like the only thing more valuable to silence, I guess, would be a Vadius, but you'd have to pop the Aegis, and you'd have to draw it, and you'd have to still have Bear's Choice. So I don't hate just getting the Bear's Choice out of hand now when you're most likely going to be using up your power for the rest of the game with a Champion of Mystery and an Ion plus an Ion ultimate activation going forward.
Because it's turning to Vara on their turn. Ion.
You could also Vara's Choice the Champion of Fury and attack with both Titans, and it's a bit harder for them to double block efficiently and get good pressure going on. And that's actually what we're going to see BruisedByGod do here. So I think we're going to, A Space comes out. Even the 2/6 Waystone Infuser bashing in, knowing that can get permafrosted or Cinder Yeti'd at some point anyways. And you'll have 2 Endurance Sandstorm Titans back. Just maximize the pressure here.
Yeah, he did the math. We didn't. And yet you're on a clock when you're having 2 5/6s hit you.
Yeah, Farodsbro goes down to 13. Decides to not block anything, knowing he's going to need these units to be alive and try and push through some damage, while BruisedByGod's at 21 health still. Instead, Quadfecta, 4 of a kind. Another Pyro Knight shows up, and I think you would have preferred that 6th power.
Yeah.
Down comes Ion. Sabotages the draw step. It's not getting any better, so I think we'll see that get used here.
He's still a couple influence away from, let's see.
Yeah, Champion of Mystery needs one more Shadow Source for it to be unblockable, so I wouldn't be shocked to see just finally play the Amber Waystone. Yes, you're not going to gain 2 life off of it, but I think it's better to just use Sabotage Champion of Mystery here if they have been slow rolling a Permafrost.
It makes the most sense. They have 1 card, you Sabotage, you get to see what it is, and then it's still a 7/7, blocks everything.
It's like, how valuable is this 2 health from this Amber Waystone at this stage of the game when you're still at 21 and probably going to gain more with this Ion at some point? Plus, by playing this power, you're open to getting 8 power next turn for Ion Ultimate. So I think there's a lot of reasons to stop holding this Waystone, but we'll see if BruisedByGod agrees with that as he bashes in with the Waystone Infuser and takes out a 3/2.
Yeah, now all the blocks on the Waystone Infuser. Interesting.
Yeah, going down to 3, but BruisedByGod doesn't play Extract anywhere. So it's not like going to 3 is that different from going to 8 or whatever. It just means now every unit that BruisedByGod has to be blocked. Only running the draw here, and it's not looking good for Farodsbro. Okay, there's the one reason to hold on to the power was Mystic Ascendant as the draw step, but I think it was still the right play by BruisedByGod to jam in there. Although maybe not with the 2/6 if you wanted to warp in the power off the top of your deck for this draw step.
Yeah, when you're that far ahead, sometimes it feels bad when you do that, but then you look at the board, you're like, it's a bunch of 2/1s, 2/2s versus my army of big dudes. Yeah. It's just it's okay.
It's like I'll deal with it this time. Yeah, you lost out on drawing a Mystic Ascendant or drawing with Mystic Ascendant, but you gained having a Champion of Mystery without a Permafrost on it. So that's a pretty good trade.
I'll take it.
And yeah, A space will come in from BruisedByGod, and that'll do this first game. So another sideboard staple of Big Zenith in the past was for the aggro matchup was Devoted Thurge, but with the addition of Dream Snatcher, BruisedByGod not going with that, but has these devastating setbacks to bring in, like we talked about. Also, Predatory Carnosaur could just straight up swap for Mystic Ascendant. Wouldn't be shocked if we see that.
Yeah, usually Mystic Ascendant, you're in there for the long haul, but you need sometimes just to kill the VAD. Like, it has Aegis, I don't want to use 2 cards, slap down the big old Dino Man, slam in, kill it, no problem, and you're still left over with a 6/6. It's great.
Yeah, both those units might have 6 in their cost, but Mystic Ascendant is effectively a 7-drop, so you are lowering your curve by bringing in Carnosaur. On the other end, what do you expect Farodsbro to swap into here? The Groundbreakers are kind of cool. You're going to slow up your strategy a bit, but you might have to do that with the amount of life gain that BruisedByGod has the potential to throw at you.
Yeah, I would assume that Polymorph and Obliterate, a lot of hits for those. Obliterate takes down the Titans, which are very hard to deal with otherwise. Polymorph, also a good way to deal with that. Also a good way to deal with Champion of Mystery. Especially if it becomes unblockable, there's nothing you can do. So I think Polymorph might be a key card to bring in against those bigger units. I assume that's why it's in the sideboard. Things that you just can't deal with. Let's just turn into 1/1, and a bunch of my units have Overwhelm. Yeah. So we can just push over top of that.
There's also Crystallize in the sideboard, which is seems like a powerful tool against time decks typically. Again, as you talked about, Sandstorm Titan has Endurance, but none of the other ones do. It doesn't help you against an Ion that's in hand that could get ambushed in, but it's a possibility. Just not sure how you make room for it or what the exact plan is. Farodsbro's played with this deck a lot, so he might not have this exact matchup in mind, but I'm sure he has, all right, if I'm against a big time deck, I generally want Crystallize. Here's how I make it work.
Yeah, but if you're bringing in Obliterate and Crystallize, that's 2 5 costs. I assume you'd have to also bring in the Crest.
Right.
So I don't know if it's like one or the other, depending on which type of mid-range deck he's playing.
At that point, like, do all the Mortars come out because they're not really good removal, so they're just going towards face, right? The only thing they kill is Ions and Dream Snatchers, which Torches and Permafrost already deal with.
So, yeah, I think that's probably the worst card in this matchup at this point.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. I would be interested to see if Crystallized does come in.
Yeah, so I think if we're identifying cards to cut, Fearless Yeti and Mortar are almost certainly the first to go. And then maybe another early play somewhere to make room for a Groundbreaker, Crystallize, Obliterate, Crest, Polymorph. Those were all the cards we identified. That's 9 cards. That's a lot to switch in for an aggro deck. But
yeah, so if you don't put in the Crystallize, that's only, what's that, 6, 7 if you're putting the Crest in?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe taking out one of the 1-drops.
Yeah, just make your overall draw quality higher.
Yeah. Assume Grenin Drone.
Yeah, probably Grenin Drone is the least appealing of these cards compared to Oni Ronin, Pyro Knight, Snow Crush Yeti. You know, they all still wear weapons well. Again, you're against Ion and Dream Snatcher, so those are scary cards for any small unit, even your Rakano Outlaw, but at least Rakano Outlaw has Quick Draw, which is valuable.
Yeah. Or do you keep the Fearless Yeti in since it does trade with like Ion, stuff like that?
That's a good point. Yeah, it might just end up being better because naturally it trades with these X3s, even though it is a bit slower. You don't have to support it as much, or you don't have to push it through with other cards.
Yeah, take out like the two drones and trim down to 2 Oni Ronins.
And here we see, as we're looking at these mulligan hands as this game's about to go underway, there's Fearless Yeti. Their Mortar was still in, so Farodsbro really valuing these Mortars regardless of the matchup.
And you could just be trying to end the game as fast as possible, and Mortar fits into that game plan.
Yeah, simply if you do get into a board stall, you've already lost, so why even bother bringing in something? Maybe the thought process, which is a pretty good thought to have. Here, Farodsbro just goes with the simple Champion of Fury, get it out of hand and get it beating down. BruisedByGod has the Ion and has a Dark Return to go with it, so that's pretty nice. Although won't be able to do it with all this depleted power in hand.
Crystallize is in.
Okay, so we just misidentified what cards are getting cut, but we were pretty good at what was coming in.
We're close, real close. You don't often see Crystallize in the sideboard, so maybe we did just try and go a little bit bigger, so we did cut a hefty amount of the 1-drops, maybe not just 1 or 2. It could have been a 4 of 5.
Yeah.
4 to 6 of them.
Certainly. We haven't seen one yet this game, so it could be that those all got cut or a lot of them got cut, and you just tried to turn into a slightly bigger but still very aggressive mid-range or aggro mid-range. So yeah, BruisedByGod just going to use Annihilate here. Debating on whether or not to use Dark Return. Yep, gets it out of hand now so that next turn he can both Vera's Favor and Ion without having a Dark Return be clunky in hand.
And Ion's just so valuable in this matchup. It stares this Vadius down quite well.
But so does Vara's Favor plus Banish. So there's a possibility that, he'll hold both. So now Vadius either has to get a weapon equipped and then you get more value out of Banish, or it doesn't get to swing at all and you get to play down Ion this turn and Banish later.
You almost get the feel bads of, ooh, there's a 3-1. I could have Vara's choice that, but with having Banish still in the hand, you have your 4/4 Ion, and now you have 2 World Bear Behemoth. I think he's okay with that one.
Yeah, now you just get to swing with Ion and play Behemoth. If you want to be really conservative and play around things like Permafrost and Yetis, you can do neither. But wow, he goes with the ultimate conservative play, which is just hold up Banish here.
He's going to get the value off of it right here. So the only card left is Crystallize. Not going to get it. Ooh, never mind.
All right. Yeah, I think he's going to cleanly clear the board again. He opted to do that last turn with the Banish line. Maybe something's changed where he decides to change his mind here. But yep, now the board is cleared. Crystallize is pretty bad when you have absolutely no units, it turns out. And this is not looking good for Farodsbro, although a Pyro Knight draw is one of the ways you can get back in this. If you play it out now, though, you don't get to ultimate it, which is a risk, but one you might have to take.
Yeah, with the way his hand's shaped up, he just needs to do something. You've seen some removal. There's only 2 cards left in BruisedByGod's hand. What's the risk? It's caught a 2 War Cries, looks like. No, 1 War Cry.
I also just realized BruisedByGod didn't have triple time. That's why he didn't play World Bear Behemoths. It only took me three turns, chat. Don't worry. Sorry about that. Yeah, Xenon doesn't have crest. We talked about it earlier. Sometimes the power doesn't work out for you. There we see Pyro Knight's a 7/6. It's the biggest unit on board.
Yeah, I can trade here. I think he's offering a trade because he does have the setback. But he could also use the setback to peek at the hand, as he's seen him not play too many. Well, just like one thing. Like last turn, he just played the Pyro Knight, and he still had a card in hand. Yeah. Maybe he's holding something. But I don't mind this attack here at all, especially with the setback in your hand. The 7/6 could become a problem.
Yeah, I'm fine with this attack just based on where your hand is at. Like, you don't want to hold back and try and double block Pyro Knight because they could just find removal, and then that's not a move anyways. I think being proactive here, especially because your opponent's at 18, you're at 30, is a fine line. At some point, you'll find a time source and get these World Bear Behemoths out of hand too, and just keeping a deck with weapons and other things off of units on board is a really nice spot to be.
Whichever unit you block, you get set back. And I think blocking the Aeon's better because there's always the potential to ultimate and just get back whatever you killed prior. So
yeah, Ion has ultimate threat, but Sandstorm Titan has endurance, and there's a time source from BruisedByGod, and that's probably going to close the door on Farodsbro's chances of coming.
You can play Crystallize just to survive a turn.
Yeah, and that's probably what he'll do.
I don't think there's a single card that gets him out of this. Titan is just too good, and two behemoths. It's just, I don't know about the Crystallize. I don't think this matchup was where you needed to be. I think you might have made your deck too clunky, because if you think about, you want those aggressive units early, and then play Crystallize, stun them all, swing through it. So if you're taking out all the 1-drops to make room for that, it might be skewing the strategy a little bit too much.
It's good against their unit heavy draws, but that time BruisedByGod had a decent amount of removal draw in that game, so it looked a lot worse, and that's the risk you run with the Crystallize. I think it's also the first game Crystallize would have been so good that it left that impression in your head of like, I want it for this matchup. But I mean, against Champion of History, World Bear Behemoth, Mystic Center, you can't possibly, or Carnosaur or whatever, you can't remove all these things. So getting into a board stall and hopefully just bursting them is a nice strategy. The problem is they bring in the devastating setback, and they also don't mind the board stall because they wipe your board.
Yeah, it can just be something when sideboarding, you think about, okay, these cards are good against this sort of strategy, doing this and this. We also got to kind of think, what do they bring in? Is my strategy going to survive to make it to this point? So you got to interact that sort of way. That could have been just a small misstep, and perhaps in testing it's worked out plenty of times, and just with that draw, it just fell flat.
Yeah. But still, Farodsbro will be at 2-1, so still live to make the Swiss in good standings. BruisedByGod moves to 3-0. Big Xenon serving him well so far in the tournament.
I think it's in a good spot. Has a lot of ways to interact with most decks in the meta. Especially, I think a lot of people are going to be kind of going back to old favorites and things that were working a week or two ago. Not trying to risk too many things. It's late in the season. A patch just hit yesterday. So it's okay. This kind of worked. Let's just kind of play that. Only had a night to test. So this has banished Death Strike, a lot of hard units to deal with. It's in a good spot for today's tournament.
And so with that, I think we'll be taking another little break and coming back with round 4 action in just a moment. I believe this will be your last round with us today, Counterbob, right? You've got to move on and get some other things done.
Yes, I have some plans that were already set, and unfortunately I have to leave after this round, but I do wish you luck, Mr. Rhino, and
of course,
hopefully if you're by yourself, that may be tough, but hopefully we can get somebody in.
We're digging pretty deep here. It looks like we might have a fun little backup caster, but thanks for pitch hitting in this spot. Your insight, of course, was very valuable, keeping me in line.
Yeah, I do my best.
Yeah, look forward to you being on coverage again in the future.
Yes, I think
have a
we're
nice
running,
afternoon.
I think we're running one of my deck techs in a bit somewhere,
Ooh.
so you'll still hear my voice somewhere along the day.
All right. I'm looking forward to that. And again, we're going to take a quick break here, get some new faces here in the booth that you won't be able to see at home, but trust me, we all have faces here, and more Eternal action after this break.